Hi everyone, so welcome to this message. I don't know if I'm going to be pulling cards at the end of this or not. I kind of have to feel out what is being called for here. So we're just going to dive into this. As I stepped into the space to open up for this message, I was seeing torchlight. And this torchlight opened up into a cave, and the cave felt like it was sloping. There were images from dreams that were moving very quickly. And as these images were moving very quickly, I could hear kind of like my own heartbeat, but my heartbeat sounded, like a drum in that space. And so this told me that this is a message for those of you who practice shamanism, right? Maybe you are practicing interaction with spirits and you don't necessarily label it that way, right? Interacting with spirits, especially in your meditations and random mystical experiences, but you know that you're dealing with the dead sometimes, sometimes you're dealing with what most people would term gods. You may even know that you're dealing with ancestors. This is who this message is for. So as I realized that this was for a shamanic sort of collective, they showed me symbols on a wall. And I saw a hand just brushing over the top of the symbols, like as though brushing over the tops of the symbols. It reminded me of Braille. It was very open to his interpretation, his understanding of the alphabet and the language of these symbols. So this message is about interpretation, and it's not necessarily about symbols, though it may be. I feel more so that this is broader in scope. So this is a very specific message. Now, before I get to the actual message, they kind of did things a little bit differently this time. I saw the cave open up after I realized what the interpretation part was. And I saw all these people. And most of them, they were occluded in shadow. Like I said, it felt very cave-like, so very underworld, right? Ancestors. But there were 4 that stepped forward, and the vibe that they gave me was very much of someone's guides. So I think that these are 4 very specific guides that are working with collectives of people, and they wanted me to see their faces so that I would describe them. If you've ever gotten a personal reading from me, you know how that works for me, right? So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to try to breeze through this really fast, and then we'll get to this message. So if you don't recognize these as your guides, it's not necessarily that this isn't your message. It's just that these are the 4 that really want their people to understand something. The first was a Siberian man, and he was very, very old. He had a round face. It was very weathered. He had small, kind eyes, thin lips, and he had a headdress on that had a medallion in the center. And I saw it first as red, but as I received that information, it turned gold on me. So I don't know which color it really is, if the color even matters. He had this like fringe that was happening on his headdress. It might have been beads, I'm not sure, but they occlude his face sometimes. So the second was a Sami shaman who is working with someone who has ancestry from the area of Europe called Lapland. She wears furs, and I saw a bunch of eagle feathers. I'm not quite sure how they're placed or what the significance of. Maybe she just comes around with eagles, but they were like golden eagle feathers. For some people, I got that she appears as a man, and her features in general are very androgynous, but for some she appears as a man. This person is very stoic, very wise. So the third was, and this is where I know those of you who are more interested in shamanism from an academic standpoint, you're going to have a problem with this. So I just want to explain that I understand, and I don't need schooling in my comments, that shamanism is something that originates from Siberia and Northern Europe and the surrounding Asiatic lands. But I'm going to honor that these are the beings that stepped forward, that these are the people that stepped forward after leading me to the practice of shamanism. So the third one was a man from the Congo, and he felt extremely powerful, but he was powerful because of something different. I can't quite put my finger on what that something different was. It was something about his personal quality and his personal character. He used the word Nganga. I don't even know if that's a word, so my apologies. He wears a mask that's important for a very particular type of ritual. And this ritual, it felt like something having to do with a liminal moving on of something. He himself appears with colorful paint on his face. I was seeing like red like swooshes and like white and yellows. and he looks pretty young. He doesn't look like he's, you know, middle-aged or anything like that. He looks pretty young. So the fourth one was a Navajo man, and he wasn't very concerned about me seeing his features. He just wanted me to see his presence, and he wanted me to see that there was a symbol on the floor. So I got what he was telling me to pass through this symbol. And so what I got was that he is working with somebody on how to use symbols to activate portals, or to act as portals. I can't tell which one. This man told me to go through this symbol that was on the floor. And so I, you know, in this space, I feel myself sink down, and I open up into like this black cavernous space where I just couldn't see anything. It felt like space. And all of a sudden there were 4 animals around me instead of these 4 shaman. And the animals feel very significant. So I'm going to bring that forward as well in case it resonates for somebody. It was a golden eagle again, an Arctic fox, a buffalo that had like these floofy, really cute floofy ears. I don't know, it was a very pretty buffalo. I've never seen a buffalo like that before. And then a bear. And in front of me, it was like the point of the message, which is the point for this interpretation. It was a snake. And at first I had this feeling like, oh, you know, and then I was like, well, that's funny. I don't normally react to snakes that way. And then I basically got that was the message. So essentially these guides are bringing forward a message that for this particular group of people practicing shamanism, right? Whatever culture you're involved in, whether we stick to the purely academic definition originally of shamanism, or if we branch beyond that to, you know, all the practices that really deserve to be inside of that category, in my opinion anyway, somebody has encountered something, whether it's in the 3D or in a journey space, or, you know, on the astral. They've encountered something that their reaction is, oh, you know, oftentimes when we encounter things that make us uncomfortable, we react very negatively to it, right? We want to destroy it. We want to get rid of it. We want to banish it. We want to exorcise it. We want to do all these things to it, right? Which is counter, and this is the message, it's counter to the actual nature of shamanism. The nature of the shaman is to partner with and ally with and to empower the self with these forces. There are last-ditch situations in which these wars or exorcisms or banishings take place, right? Even when a shaman is getting rid of something, it's not done with this maliciousness. It's not done with hostility, right? Sometimes it is done with very forceful willpower. But there's a very sensitive message wrapped up in this. These guides are coming forward because they're trying to remind the collective that they're working with to return back to the ways of thinking that belong to your motherland, right? To like your spiritual motherland. And they want you to remove from your lens of interpretation in order to allow you to have more access and to be more powerful in your practice and to understand deeper. Mostly it's about understanding in a deeper way. They really need you to remove the blinder of fear that is imposed upon our experience by the religions that took over your ancestry, right? So that's a very sensitive message. You know, you guys know I don't have a problem with the monotheistic religions. I don't at all. Some of the people I love the most are, you know, Christians and Muslims. So like, that's not what this message is about. The message, however, is that you are called to a path of shamanism. And there is a way of shamanic thinking that is required to be a shaman. And someone's guides here seem to have had a little bit of difficulty in alleviating those worries for you. And so this is confirmation for somebody who is experiencing this at this time to not be afraid, right? to release that sort of fear. We as people, we're very afraid of anything that we're uncomfortable with, right? Whether it's change, whether it's something that doesn't look the way that we want it to look. Things don't have to look the way that we want them to look. They don't have to sound the way that we want them to sound. They don't even have to come with an energy that we like, right? For us to constantly expect the spiritual world to show up a certain way is us trying to have control. Now, magical control has its place in shamanism, but so does respect. And so someone here in this collective, your guides, are basically just trying to bring forward a message of you don't have to be afraid of whatever this thing is that you've recently encountered. They want you to examine your interpretation of it. They want you to release that knee-jerk reaction to react to things in hostility and fear and resistance. That's the one that's highlighted for me, is resistance, because there's something being resisted in whatever this energy is that has recently stepped forward, where there's actually a great deal of knowledge. That's why it's appearing in this symbology as a snake, right? The snake is the knowledge giver, cross-culturally. So, okay, I'm being told to pull cards. Okay, nope, he's in this deck. Okay. Three cards. This deck is so hard for me to shuffle. It always has been. I have a couple of decks that I really love, but man, they're just so hard to shuffle. I don't even use some of them on camera because of that. Whoosh. Okay. Right. So it's interesting because, what is that? Okay, so one of the animals, okay, so I didn't say this. Around the four animals, there was another animal, and that animal looked like, I thought it was an anteater, but it looked like an armadillo. So if anybody knows what kind of animal is an anteater but looks like an armadillo, please let me know, because that was it was behind the bear and the golden eagle. It was like in between them, behind them. So so it's just interesting that armadillo comes out. This is about setting healthy boundaries. I feel that this card goes with this, which is the cat spirit, claiming your independence. So I feel that it's very important to understand what beliefs are ours and what beliefs are beliefs that we've had conditioned into us societally. And that's really what this message is about, to understand what beliefs resonate on the deepest, most authentic version of ourselves, right? If we are people who have like that sort of program for shamanism, or we're called by spirits, part of the lesson is to partner with and ally with and have reverence for and respect for spirits, even if they show up a way that we don't necessarily care for, right? Because there's information there. There's information there. This doesn't mean that you're never going to have to banish. It doesn't mean that you're never going to have to get rid of, or, you know, remove, or engage in a spiritual warfare sort of situation with these beings. But it does mean that that is kind of not to be the first reaction to them, right? And that first reaction sort of energy is something that has come with the displacement of our original people's beliefs, or our native beliefs, or our, you know, the beliefs of our ancestry, when everyone got converted, right? That's just it's just what it is, right? I'm not trying to like throw shame on anybody, but that it just is what it is. And these guides are really trying to get us to set healthy boundaries between these societal beliefs, or even spiritual, you know, popular spiritual beliefs, because we see a lot of that sort of fear-mongering inside of spirituality as well, right? And that is something that is very evident if you look around. You know, there's big business. There's a lot of money to be made if you're busy fear-mongering. We see that from everything from the news to a lot of popular spiritual teachings. And I mean, I've even sat around with some spiritual teachers and some other readers and had entire conversations about how, well, I propagate a little bit of fear and give warnings because it helps me on the algorithm. And, you know, it just is what it is. Like, people have bills to pay. For some people, these are their jobs. So I'm not trying to throw shade at them, but it's really good to practice the discernment to be able to see when that's happening. and to not be part of it, right? To not allow ourselves to get roped in, because we're protecting our energy and our peace. The same is true when we're practicing these modalities, not to buy into the fear response. As human beings, we have a natural fear response, and sometimes we have to disseminate that and really understand what's taking place there. There's a healthy reason why we experience fear, but sometimes that fear is unwarranted, and it's when we can understand that it's unwarranted that we can push past and we can learn even more. Usually we have that response to in unwarranted situations, to situations that have a great deal of information to teach us, or things that will actually help us in the long run. So just be aware of that. That seems to be the message that's coming through, is there's something about the interpretation. Here with the Squirrel Spirit, we have believe in yourself. And this is something that you guys will hear me talk about all the time, right? You've heard me say it over and over, that trusting yourself to keep yourself safe, right? They want you to believe more in your own personal power within this system that you are working. And the reason why is because when we believe in that personal power, we don't react out of fear quite the same way. And so for some of you, you may have that struggle of believing in yourself and believing in your own sovereignty and sanctity, and that you understand how to navigate yourself through situations. And maybe you don't know how to navigate yourself through situations, and so really trying to tune into yourself and understand how you would do that, right? Really learning how to navigate yourself through situations and understanding what's at the core of all of this for you is important. What I mean by that is, for example, a lot of people, they think that they have to go through these elaborate rituals and jump through all these hoops to do something to protect themselves, and they don't, right? Don't forget, the force of willpower is insanely potent. So if you can learn to gather your willpower, which is, if you're a part of this collective, you already know how to do that. You have what you need. So again, the message is believe in yourself. Whoever this message is actually for, if you've recognized these shaman as like part of your spirit guides, or somebody that's working with you, especially, you already know how to protect yourself. You already know how to navigate things. So you don't need to have that sort of fear response. This is an underlying message to all of this. Whoever this collective is, right? Whoever's in this collective, there is this energy that this is the whole point, right? Right there, and they're telling me the numbers too, so 3 and 8. So this is about manifesting or spiritual ideas. Manifesting, 3 for me is the numbers of like the spiritual pillars, right? 4 is the earthly pillars for me. So 3 is our sense of spirituality, but it's also the things that we're trying to create. 8 is the number of manifestation or materialization for me. So here with dream the world into being, that makes a lot of sense. There is, if you look at this, there's this little pearl right there that is being coddled by that little bud, and once that bud opens, the pearl will be exposed. Someone here, this is all an act of refinement. There is something that we hold very dear inside of ourselves, not only for us as an individual, but maybe something that we're trying to attract or something we're trying to manifest as our lives, that is in a process of being nurtured and in a gestation period right now. This interpretation and the ability to change our interpretation about something seems to be very fundamental as a lesson to getting us into this energy of being able to make life what we want it, make the world what we want it. There's something here also about this ability that we are working on, whether you're practicing shaman or not. There seems to be this sort of ability that we have that we're supposed to be bringing forward. And this moment right now where we have something in our 3D or on the astral or in our journeys that is presenting itself in a way that we're actually afraid of, right? Or that we feel very hostile against. This seems to be understanding how to refine that heart space into greater love, right? Greater compassion, greater connectivity. It's very important for someone on a shamanic path to have connectivity with all things, with all beings, with all, elements of life. this is vital in order to be able to navigate those spaces and move freely. So this is what seems to be happening right now. Somebody is in a certain process or a certain lesson about our interpretation and the way that that interpretation causes us to behave. Again, for some of you, especially if you have that Navajo guide, he seems to be trying to help you. It almost feels like causing something to pass through these symbols. And part of that may be, and I don't know, this is like speculation on my part. It feels a little bit like some of that may be expelling some sort of limiting belief or some sort of maybe a toxic habit or toxic trait that we have, or a more negative emotion. I'm just seeing like this dark, cloudy, smoky stuff going through a symbol for somebody. It's like we're expelling our own sort of demons, but in the process of doing so, we're also understanding what they have to teach us. So this is very powerful. Like I said, whatever collective this is for, this is extremely powerful information. You guys seem to have a lot of abilities to be able to connect with ancestors, with guides, with the underworld, with the upper world, all of it. But there is something about the interpretation that has to be examined. So if this resonated for you, please hit that like button. Feel free to leave me a comment. And until next time.